A part of I95, a critical U.S. highway, collapsed in Philadelphia on Sunday. Officials said it buckled after a tanker truck carrying gasoline caught fire below a northbound overpass of the interstate. No deaths or injuries have been reported so far, but I95 is the main north-south interstate for the East Coast, running from Miami to the Canadian border, with roughly 160,000 vehicles passing over the roadway every day. And a rebuild will take months, according to Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro.
We expect it to take that time, and we will have that specific timeline set forth once the engineers in PennDOT have completed their review. To expedite this process and to cut through the red tape, tomorrow morning I plan to issue a disaster declaration, allowing the Commonwealth to immediately draw down federal funds and move quickly to repair and reconstruct this roadway.
Officials say the adjacent southbound overpass was also closed as a fire made it structurally unsound. Shapiro added that while there were indications that some gasoline may have spilled into the nearby Delaware River, booms were quickly put into the water to contain the spread. He stressed there was no threat of drinking water contamination. U.S. President Joe Biden was briefed on the collapse, and the White House has reportedly offered assistance. Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg said I-95's closure will have, quote, significant impacts on the region and the city of Philadelphia. Officials said travelers should expect delays as the overpass is rebuilt and encourage them to plan alternate travel routes for their commutes.
Email exchanges from inside the BBC, they talk about the risk of violating Indian laws. It's easier to rake up the freedom of speech debate, but does it give anyone a free pass to knowingly violate the law? America supports India because it needs India's support in return. And India is working with the US because it suits India's interests. This is how geopolitics works. Last night, he diffused a crisis with his defense minister. But today, Netanyahu was confronted with a new problem. His cabinet seems to have rebelled against him. The UK is looking at the Indian subcontinent to fill its coffers. That India seems to be negotiating from a position of power, like a partner and not a former colony. The US and Russia are dangerously close to an armed conflict. This year, 2023, New Delhi will be the capital of global diplomacy. For a country as diverse as ours, with 88% of the population illiterate, it was a very big deal to write a constitution, and that too, the world's largest. Meanwhile, if we may, here's a Republic Day gift from India for the BBC. A list of suggestions for the BBC for their upcoming documentaries. Number 1, the Kohinoor and the colonial loot. Number 2, an outdated monarchy and unhealthy obsession with the royals. Number 3, racism in 2023. We're waiting.